Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to MCJ Report number 168. I hope that everybody is having a good evening. Of course, it is Friday tomorrow, and we're all very happy about that. Well, hopefully we are, or at least as happy as you can be living in a place governed by a bunch of absolute maniacs. That's right. But don't worry, ladies and gentlemen, because we have good momentum on our sides. That's right. I can see a lot of people joining the broadcast, a lot of regular names, some new names. So whoever you are or wherever you are tuned in from, welcome to the show. I am your host, Morgan C. Jonas, and go ahead and give the broadcast a share, ladies and gentlemen. Share it out to the groups, share it with your contacts. We are independent media and we like to go to some different places that you might not find, particularly on the mainstream media. That's right. That is simply a matter of what we do. So what's in store for this evening? Well, we've got a few things to talk about. First of all, Victoria appears to not be budging on workplace mandates despite other states dropping them. So I wonder why that is, ladies and gentlemen. It doesn't seem like a very scientific approach, does it? Everyone else dropping them, but Victoria says, no, it's all about the science. We're going to keep them. Just another inconsistency in a long line of inconsistencies that we've experienced for a couple of years now. Also, we've got a study that asserts that, quote, anxiety is likely behind certain adverse event hospital admissions. That's right, anxiety. People scared about adverse reactions, not actually having them. Also, an alleged terrorist has returned to Australia to face criminal charges. So we'll have a bit of a chat about that. A pretty interesting case, I think. And also, we have on the show this evening, Melbourne's very own Avi Yemini from Rebel News, who has had a major success in the federal courts recently. That's right. Avi, who is in the process of launching a defamation suit against an anonymous yet very notorious Twitter troll by the name of PR Guy 17. That's right. The court has made its order and 14 days. That's right. So in 14 days, this so-called PR Guy 17 character will be forced to give up its identity, all right? We don't know if it's a man, a woman, Daniel Andrews' staff, not Daniel Andrews' staff. So a lot of people for a long time have been seeking to get to the bottom of this PR mystery. And it looks like Avi has cracked the code. So we'll hear from him later. I'm sure that you're all very interested to hear what he has to say. Alrighty, so let's get it started, ladies and gentlemen, by going through some headlines as we do. All right, what do we have here? Not allowed. Cambodia tells Penny Wong China can't access naval base. All right, so Penny Wong has been traveling around very frantically, so it seems, to a lot of the Pacific nations and nations in our immediate region in order to dissuade them from signing a similar deal to the likes of which the Solomon Islands signed with China. That's right, a security deal that allows essentially Chinese naval ships to park at Solomon Islands and for their police to go and conduct training exercises with the Solomon Islands police and so forth. China recently attempted a multilateral agreement with several nations surrounding Australia in order to, I suppose, bring the same type of military hardware and to effectively surround Australia. And we've seen a similar strategy like that used. I think it was in World War II around that region, but we're not going to get too sidetracked. But it looks like there are certain islands that are standing their ground or potentially receiving some type of incentive from the Australian government not to join that sort of pact. This never should have happened in the first place. Australia should have had absolutely better bilateral relations with those particular nations better military cooperation, and now it looks like the government is kind of frantic, trying to take care of a situation that should have been looked after a very, very long time ago. All right, what do we have here? Anthony Albanese says his cabinet has the largest number of women in history. All right, so ladies and gentlemen, what I would prefer to see is, instead of boasting about the largest number of women in history, how about boasting about the largest number of, say, MPs who genuinely love Australia and who want to do the right thing? Or how about the largest number of MPs who are truly qualified, people who hold a great sense of responsibility to serving the public and have experience in their fields? Wouldn't that be something better to aim for? What do you think, ladies and gentlemen? Who here is sick and tired of gender politics? If you are, raise your hand. All right, moving along. What do we have here? All right, bit of COVID news. All right, no MCJ report would be complete without touching on this subject, which unfortunately is not going away anytime soon. So here we go. This was from The Age. COVID vaccine anxiety triggered mass dash to the emergency room. Well, that's a very bold, assertive statement. COVID vaccine anxiety triggered mass dash to the emergency room. So they didn't. So what's The Age saying here? They didn't really have adverse reactions. They just thought they did. They were anxious because they watched a video online and they said, well, I think I've got an adverse reaction. But no. The Age is saying here, COVID, it was actually anxiety. Not a real adverse reaction. So let's have a look at what they're saying, ladies and gentlemen. It says almost 1,000 Victorians rushed to a single Melbourne hospital over 3 months last year, incorrectly fearing they were experiencing rare, life-threatening reactions to the coronavirus vaccines. Well, thank you very much to The Age for setting the record straight, because a lot of us have been really worried about this, but you don't have to worry because The Age has told you the truth, and we can trust The Age and the government and all of those characters who are absolutely never talking to each other behind closed doors or doing anything like that. All right, anyway, let's have a read down here. It says here, almost 98% of patients who presented were deemed, quote, well enough to be sent home after a thorough examination. It says here, the Australian First study examined patient behaviour in the 3 weeks after people were given a coronavirus vaccine. Researchers suggested the sharp rise in, quote, anxiety-fueled presentations to the emergency department was partly driven by anxiety-provoking media articles. Okay, so in the body of this article, partly driven, but that seems like a very assertive statement. It was partly driven. Is that a matter of fact? I don't know. But it says here that anxiety triggered a mass dash. Two very conflicting statements, don't you think, ladies and gentlemen? So I've got the study up here. So this was a study, as in the study that has been referenced in that article, from Emergency Medicine Australasia. That's right. So it talks about these admissions to hospital, and supposedly 98% of them were not very serious, or it was invoked by some sort of anxiety, and they were sent home. So it says here that the admissions were heightened by anticipation of such events by the population being vaccinated, coupled with anxiety-provoking articles in the lay media. But it actually says it is likely, all right? So it is likely. Well, how likely? A little bit likely? Much likely? And what measures, I want to know, did this organization take to determine the likelihood of anxiety being one of these driving factors behind the hospitalizations? I'm not really sure. The article and the study, it doesn't really make it clear. Maybe you can have a read of this at home and you can fill me in if I'm missing something. Now, whenever I read a study like this, I just can't help it. The first question I like to ask is, who are the sponsors? Who are the advertisers? Not saying there's a conflict of interest, not going there. I just like to know who they are. Is that a fair question? So I thought I'd have a bit of a look to check it out. This Emergency Medicine Australasia organization. And on their website here, they've got a little page for advertisements and sponsorships. But unfortunately, going through the website, I haven't been able to find out who any of them are. So they've got a great big policy here in regards to conflict of interest, and you can have a big read about it, and it all sounds very well and good. But then why not publish who the sponsors and advertisers are? For the name of transparency, I think that's very important, especially since the study appears, let's use the word appears, to greatly line up with the government narrative in relation to the jabs and in relation to adverse reactions. We should know who the sponsors are, ladies and gentlemen. So I may need to dig a little deeper into this. If you'd like me to go deeper onto this particular subject in this organization, then let me know in the comments. Alrighty, now moving along to completely unrelated news to anything that has been mentioned this evening. We've got the president of European pharma giant charged for falsifying COVID vaccination record and purchasing fake vaccine passport. Now this is a big deal, ladies and gentlemen. You've got the president here saying, no, don't want it, give me a fakie. All right, why could that possibly be? I don't know, trying to work it out. It's all very confusing. I'm going to read the first paragraph here. Spanish police carried out an investigation, Operation Jenna, which uncovered a vast network of celebrities and, quote, elites who paid money to have their names fraudulently entered into the National Immunization Register despite refusing to be vaccinated. That's right, that's what they did. One of the elites was Jose Maria Fernandez Sousa Faro, president of European pharmaceutical giant Pharma. Pretty interesting. Wonder why that happened. Can't really figure it out. So, don't ask questions. Just look the other way and let's go to the next. Let's go to the next article here. All right, McGowan. That's right, the maniac. Some local news. The maniac from Western Australia, the man who I think looks up to Daniel Andrews very much, scraps mandatory workplace vaccinations for a lot of industries. So it seems, apart from workers in high-risk settings such as disability, aged care, and healthcare. So how come he can't scrap for those people as well? But it seems that a lot of the workplace mandates are going. Now, if you're in Western Australia, the rest of Australia, or anywhere in the world, don't take this as a sign that you should start feeling comfortable with the government. If they've done it once, guess what? They can do it again. We also see in the Northern Territory scrapping vaccine mandates for workers. Chief Minister Natasha Files confirms. What happened to the last guy? What was his name? Gunner. I think it was it Michael Gunner? That absolute maniac who looked like he was on drugs. Who here remembers that guy? What happened to him? Mental breakdown? I don't know. But the minister has said here, we are moving into a world where we are living with COVID. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that we've been saying that for 2 years since those so-called videos came out of people dropping on the streets of Wuhan. But anyway, let's keep moving along here, shall we, ladies and gentlemen? And yep, Victoria. Yet Daniel Andrews wants to keep them in place. That's right, Daniel Andrews knows best. Daniel Andrews wants to jab every man and his dog, no exceptions. And I can't see the workplace mandates being revoked in Victoria anytime soon. And I dare say that if Daniel Andrews is able to win the Victorian election, I think that we will see an absolute exodus of Victorians leaving the state, looking for a better quality of life elsewhere. Remember, Melbourne used to be the, quote, most livable city in the world. Unfortunately, under this dictator, Daniel Andrews, and his very corrupt ambitions, that is no more. And it's a shame to see this happening in our home. And this is just another reminder that you, me, and anybody who loves this state and who wants to uphold the dignity of other Victorians, we must do everything we can leading up to this election to have a good outcome and to obtain the balance of power and to begin the process of restoring freedom. All right, what do we have next? No, that's not it. All right, so that's it for the news articles, ladies and gentlemen. I'm just going to check to make sure that everything is connected. Let's see, Rumble. We are live on 3 platforms, by the way, guys. So we're live on Rumble. Hello to the Rumble audience. Please go ahead and give it a share. We are live on YouTube, which generally attracts a crowd of about 5 people or 10. But if you're on YouTube, how you going? It's great to have you as well. And we're also on Facebook, of course, and I can see that there's about 315 of you on Facebook. So thank you for being here, and go ahead and share the broadcast, and let's get stuck into the meat of the show, and let's have a good talk about that. So, alrighty, what do we have? All right, Australian citizen who confessed to joining ISIS returns to Australia. That's right. So what is going on here, ladies and gentlemen? Now, first of all, it's important to note that the man in question, his name is Mohammed Zubi. he confessed in a Turkish court. Okay, so it is somewhat questionable the weight to that confession, and whether or not large amounts of pressure was put on him to confess. We don't know all the details about what happened over there. We do know that until that point, he had maintained his innocence, and he has claimed that he was solely there doing charity work and helping children and things like that. Probably should not have been in an active terrorist war zone. That probably wasn't the smartest thing to do. But of course, in our justice system, we have the presumption of innocence. So we're going to have a bit of a talk about this, and we're going to look at what we know, what we don't know, and all we really have right now is speculation. So let's have a bit of a look, shall we, ladies and gentlemen? Well, he returned. That's right. So this man in question, he is an Australian citizen, which means that inevitably it is Australia's problem to work out this situation. He was deported from Turkey after serving a jail sentence. He'd previously been captured a few times over in Syria by Kurdish forces. That's right. So he's been brought over here, shipped off into quarantine, and he's in the process of being charged with an array of terrorist offences, which from my understanding can range from a few years in jail to potentially life in prison, depending on the findings. All right, so let's have a bit of a look at this particular guy and see what's going on here. All right, so Mohammed Zubi, so he's born in Sydney from New South Wales, travelled to ISIS-controlled territory in 2013. That's right. Now, he claims to have only participated in charity work and that he was not involved in any combat situations or that he was not a member of ISIS until he was reported to have confessed in a Turkish court. All right. 2014, so a year after, his Facebook page facilitated Q&A on how to get smuggled into Syria. He has verbalized, so this is on record, he has verbalized support for the Islamic State, and that was done on an SBS panel. So although not very favorable to express something like that, it's still not a crime. You can express support for whoever you want. Simply expressing support is not a crime. In 2018, he was captured by Kurdish forces and released after 6 months. Okay, so the Kurds considered that he should be released for one reason or another. 2019, he was captured by Turkish forces, held for 3 months, before being sent to Turkey for trial, whereupon he confessed to joining Islamic State and undertook and confessed to undertaking religious and military training and fought on the front line. He was there in a Turkish prison for 18 months until he was deported to Australia. Now, some of you may be thinking that other people in those situations have simply had their citizenship revoked, and that has indeed happened, such as in the case of this guy. Raise your hands if you remember this guy, Neil Prakesh, also found guilty in a Turkish prison, but he was sentenced to longer for his the court determining him to be a member of Islamic State. I believe it was a 7.5-year sentence. There appeared to be greater evidence of this particular person's involvement, and he promptly had his Australian citizenship revoked. That's right. So some people may be wondering, why not revoke the other guys as well? Well, in the case of Neil, it was determined by the Australian government that he held dual citizenship, Australian and Fijian. So to cancel citizenship of somebody who only has a singular citizenship would actually constitute a violation of international law. That's right. Article 15 of the Universal Declaration of Human Rights entitles everybody on the face of the earth to a nationality. That's right. So any given country will be in a very difficult position should they seek to leave a certain individual stateless, regardless of whether or not they have participated in terrorist activities. It is incumbent on the country to which the suspect belongs to proceed with charges and a criminal investigation. So here we go, Article 15, and this is just a little tidbit for you at home. Everyone has the right to a nationality. No one shall be arbitrarily deprived of his nationality, nor denied the right to change his nationality. So that's pretty interesting. The The government actually a few years ago was seeking to strengthen citizenship loss provisions to tackle the whole idea of people traveling over to, say, terrorist-prone regions. We had a bill that was introduced, but it never got anywhere. Have a look at this. Australian Citizenship Amendment, Strengthening the Citizenship Loss Provisions Bill 2018. And I found a little note here. The bill also amends the requirement that a person is a national or citizen of a country other than Australia. Instead, Section 35A will clarify that a person may cease to be an Australian citizen as long as the minister is satisfied the person would not become stateless. All right, so I guess attempting to loosen the requirements for canning Australian citizenship. Well, that didn't really go anywhere. So as it stands at the moment, this particular individual being an Australian citizen, he is entitled to a trial here in Australia. He is entitled to his nationality under the Human Rights Declaration. For right or wrong, you don't have to agree with it, but those are the rights, and the Human Rights Declaration is pretty good, if only it was upheld all the time, right? So this brings me to a next point, which I want to make mention for you, and that is that it appears that alleged terrorists have greater rights than anti-lockdown protesters. That's right. Now this bloke here, Mohammed, he's going to have his trial, and I believe that he deserves that trial. He deserves the presumption of innocence. Was it stupid for him to travel to an ISIS-controlled territory? I think it was pretty stupid. Was he involved in the fighting and part of that organization? Well, I don't know. It seems kind of likely, but again, we can't really presume these things, can we? So what am I talking about here? Well, to illustrate my point, I thought that we could conduct a little exercise on MCJ Report. So what I have here on my screen, let me bring it up. We've got the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, which Australia signed on to approximately 70 years ago, a commitment to uphold human rights and to enshrine those rights in legislation. So I'm going to read a bunch of articles for you, and I want you to tell me if the government has upheld these rights during the inception of this situation, this COVID situation. All right, let me have a read here. Article 3. Everyone has the right to life, liberty, and security of person. Article 5. No one shall be subjected to torture or to cruel, inhumane, or degrading treatment or punishment. Article 7. All are equal before the law and all entitled without any discrimination to equal protection of the law. All are entitled to equal protection against any discrimination in violation of this declaration. Article 9. No one shall be subjected to arbitrary arrest, detention, or exile. Raise your hand if you've been subjected to arbitrary arrest over the past 2 years. I mean, I'm pretty certain that there's a lot of people watching right now who have, including your presenter. That's right. Article 11. Everyone charged with a penal offence has the right to be presumed innocent until proved guilty to law in a public trial at which he has all the guarantees necessary for his defence. Has that happened with all these alleged COVID restriction breaches? No one shall be held guilty of a penal offence on account of any act or omission which did not constitute a penal offence under national or international law at the time when it was committed, nor shall a heavier penalty be imposed than the one that was applicable at the time the penal offence was committed. Article 12. No one shall be subjected to arbitrary interference with his privacy, family, home, or correspondence. I mean, the Victorian government has not interfered with our privacy at all, especially during COVID, have they, folks? Article 13. Everyone has the right to freedom of movement and residence within the borders of each state. Everyone has the right to leave any country, including his own, and to return to his country. No one shall be arbitrarily deprived of his property. I think about my friend Anthony Lev, who was arbitrarily denied the right to carry his Gadsden flag. That seemed very arbitrary in nature, and that indeed was his property. Article 18, everyone has the right to freedom of thought. I mean, these all sound really great, if only this article actually meant something for us here in Australia. I mean, maybe the citizenship, the citizenship thing it actually upholds, right? You know, alleged terrorism. Hey, no, got the right to not be stateless. Bring him back, give him a fair trial. Anyway, Article 20, everyone has the right to freedom of peaceful assembly and association. Article 21, the will of the people shall be the basis of the authority of government. Yeah, this will be expressed in periodic and genuine elections, which shall be by universal and equal suffrage and shall be held by secret vote or by equivalent free voting procedures. Right, so the government, so the authority of the government should be the basis, right? Or sorry, the will of the people will be the basis for the government. Was it the will of the people to privatize water and allow corporate giants to undermine our local farming community, driving them off of their land and into jobs that they never ever wanted to be in? And was it the will of the people for to allow the Chinese Communist Party in to purchase vast amounts of our critical infrastructure and assets? Or was it the will of the people to impose this so-called state of emergency for everybody's protection? So it looks like our elections are somewhat letting us down, because it seems that Australians have been voting for politicians who don't do what the public wants them to do. Major problem. What else do we have here? Everyone has the right to work, to free choice of employment, to just, favourable conditions of work, and to protection against unemployment. All right? Well, that is provided that you have certain documentation. Article 26, everyone has the right to education. Well, plenty of children had that right deprived, didn't they? Parents have a prior right to choose the kind of education that shall be given to their children, except the government is standardizing the curriculum for all schools. That's right. So if parents, right to choose the kind of education, well, they actually don't. The government sets the education schedule for the schools. The parents have no rights. What an absolute joke. But here's where they get themselves off the hook. Look at this, Article 29. In the exercise of his rights and freedoms, everyone shall be subject only to such limitations as are determined by law, solely for the purpose of securing due recognition and respect for the rights and freedoms of others. So that's what the government said. Your human rights to protest are not reasonable because they impede on your fellow citizens' rights to freedom. That's right. By you protesting, you are jeopardizing the person's freedom who is staying at home because they're doing the right thing and you're not. Yet they never, of course, demonstrated the science. You know, Daniel Andrews, show us the science that justified the reasoning behind these extended, brutal lockdowns. Oh, no, I think that somebody else has that. I don't know where it is. Anyway, so I just wanted to touch on that for you, ladies and gentlemen, just to show you what an absolute joke we've been living in over the past 2 years, and to make that comparison there. So for the record, I absolutely think that bloke accused of terrorism, he's got to have his trial, and just like anyone else, should be presumed innocent until proven guilty. But if only the the Declaration of Human Rights was upheld for all of us who were protesting against the COVID restrictions, I dare say we would be in a much better position today. Anyway, moving along, shall we, ladies and gentlemen? All right, who here saw this? Avi Yemini set to unmask PR Guy 17. So what am I talking about here? So I'm talking about the infamous Twitter troll known as PR Guy 17. That's right, he's got over 80,000 followers. He has been building his account for nearly 2 years. He is most known for his pro-Daniel Andrews and pro-Labor sentiments. Kind of looks like he is doing the PR work for the Labor Party, but he claims to not be he claims to not be affiliated with either Labor or Daniel Andrews, and I shouldn't say he, because it could be a she, or it could be something else. So this particular Twitter account has actually become very powerful, racking up thousands upon thousands of impressions and views and likes and retweets. That's right, this particular account has also expressed major disdain for people who disagree with Daniel Andrews, and major disdain for those who have disagreed with the lockdown policy. But unfortunately for this troll account, it has entered the territory of defamation. That's right, and nobody is actually allowed to commit defamation. It's against the law, regardless of whether or not you do it anonymously. So Avi has actually had a big win in the courts. That's right. Avi has taken this lawsuit to the federal courts, and this account, PR guy, Twitter's been given an order to actually release the details so the lawsuit can proceed, because of course in a defamation suit you need to be able to identify the person who is doing the defaming. So Avi released a little video the other day. I'm going to play that for you now, and then I'm going to play for you a 15-minute discussion that I conducted with Avi a little bit earlier today. Have a look at this.
In one word, just describe the person that unmasks them.
Someone that unmasks the troll.
The troll, Dan Andrews' troll. Just one word. Like hero, whatever you want to call us.
Yeah, hero.
Hero. Yeah. I didn't put words in your mouth, did I? Ladies and gentlemen, today we have some fantastic breaking news to share with you. And firstly, I want to thank you, because none of it was possible without your help at avilegalfund.com. The federal court here behind me has today ordered Twitter 14 days to hand over the details of PR Guide. Probably the most interesting aspect to this case is that when both our legal team and Twitter's legal team came to an agreement of how to end the legal proceedings, as in what the consent orders would be, and we handed it into the judge here at the federal court, usually they just stamp it away and say, yep, no problems, go ahead, everybody's agreeing. But this judge said, no, hold on a second. I want to add an additional clause, a clause that states that this matter is not discontinued until full compliance by Twitter is achieved. Now, listen, I'm not living in the judge's head, but to me, as somebody sitting in the case, but from the outside looking at the judgment going, none of us, I didn't ask for it, and certainly Twitter didn't ask for that clause, it would seem that maybe the judge doesn't trust Twitter. And that gives me a bit of hope, knowing that our Federal Court of Australia doesn't trust Twitter. So now, what would usually happen is if Twitter didn't comply, I would have to apply for a whole new case here at the federal court. But no, not this time. Thank you to the judge. This case is open until Twitter hands over PR Guy. And all of that is only possible because of your help at avilegalfund.com, where we're getting things done every single day in the courts. avilegalfund.com. If you're as happy as I am with the outcome of this case, make sure to share the news. Let the world know what's happening, because you have people hiding behind fake profiles, which is fine. I support that. But as soon as you spend 2 years...
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are very happy to be joined here today by Avi. Now, Avi, over the past few months, it's been mostly you asking me the questions, but we're flipping that role around right now because we've got some very good news from your side, and a lot of people are very happy about that, in that the court has ordered this so-called PR guy or woman or whatever it is to expose its identity. Now, talk to us. How are you feeling about this revelation?
Well, it was funny because when I first launched, and by the way, thanks Morgan for having me. Lovely to be on this side of it this time. But when I first filed this, I saw a lot of PR Guy fans and some claiming to be lawyers telling us that it's ridiculous. It's going to get thrown out of court. Avi's a joke. And I was laughing inside because I knew that this really, it's not precedence. It's not, there's nothing special about this. Is actually just process. It's been done before. They're really sooky about it because it's me that's doing it to their hero this time. It's so for me, it was expected. And the most shocking part is how many people are ignorant to our law.
Absolutely. Now, some people may argue that users should have the right to remain anonymous online and to use their free speech to say whatever they want. What would you say to those people?
Absolutely. I agree with you. You should be able to stay private online if you want to and enjoy free speech, but don't think that that's a free pass to either breaking the law or avoiding civil litigation. If you do something, so an example that I keep, I don't know why I thought of it, but probably hanging out with Morgan too many years when I was younger, is you think of a person has the right to walk down the street in a balaclava if he doesn't want anyone to know who he is, and he can spout whatever he wants, can support Daniel Andrews if he really feels inclined, and all that's fine until he does something to either break the law or to affect somebody else where they're going to bring civil litigation against him. Then that piece of cloth on his face doesn't give him a free pass. It doesn't protect him from litigation. And that's what it's about. This is not, I love the biggest hero suddenly of free speech, or your PR guy and all his or hers or its fans. These are people that even PR guy itself, if you do a search, silence Tim Smith in the search bar in PR guy's own account, you see at least one tweet where PR guy is telling the Liberal Party to silence Tim Smith in those words. That's an attack on free speech. That was for Tim Smith's opinions on the COVID response. That's an attack on free speech. No one's telling anyone to silence anyone. In fact, I think PR guy should have an elevated voice. Just put your name to things that you're attacking people's character, or especially when it's untrue. You know what I mean? It's so funny. You have somebody like PR guy who spent 2 years attacking my character, a lot of it baseless and untrue. And, even if it were true, even if the things were true, isn't it funny? You can sit there under a protected, a fake name, attacking my credibility because you think you found some skeletons in my closet when we don't know who you are. How do we not know? Maybe you don't work for Dan Andrews, but maybe you're a rapist, and we're taking your words for it, So it's just comical. And we're finally going to find out who this lovely person is. I do suspect it is. I don't think, the rumors have always been it's a staffer of Dan Andrews. The way that they've been denying that so furiously, I think, if you read between the lines, I don't think it is a staffer of Dan Andrews, but I do. I'll tell you a little secret. I haven't told anyone this because I have this hunch. I'm not going to say who, but I think it's the partner of one of Daniel Andrews' staffers. So you've got that here first. I've never said that to anyone publicly on the record because I just want to be able to come back and say I knew it. So don't bring it up unless I'm right. Thanks.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, you heard it first on MCJ Report. And Avi, I think whoever it is definitely some type of unwavering, huge supporter for Daniel Andrews, to say the least. Now, do you think it's in the public's best interest that this person, or whatever it is, has its identity revealed to the public?
Look, I think it depends. It does depend who it is. And people say, are you gonna tell everyone? Because obviously I'm going to be the one with that information at the end of the day. I think it depends who it is, honestly. If it's someone that's in the public interest, so if it's someone that either is on the tax dime or taxpayer's dime, or it's somebody that has been sharing information or had such a close connection, like who I think, if it is who I think it is, and it is a partner of a staffer, so who's obviously got that inside information, who's really closely connected, and which has used the information they've received from their partner, who they shouldn't really have, to kind of prop up the PR of the Andrews Labor government, then I will certainly share it. But if it ends up being Dave from Wagga Wagga, as somebody on Twitter told me, if it ends up being Dave from Wagga Wagga, we'll probably do a little bit more digging before we out them, because I do think if it just happens to really just be Dave from Wagga Wagga, then maybe then I don't know if I feel so comfortable with it being a public thing, because people do have the right to do that. I think that it just needs to be, they need to be unmasked. It needs to be investigated properly. And this is a job, honestly, of really a journalist. And all the mainstream journalists should have found a way. There's plenty of other ways. This happens to me. I was defamed, so I'm able to do it this way. But And the truth be told, Morgan, listen, I might not be able to protect the account because the moment you file defamation, their name's public. That's the bottom line. So what happens here is Twitter's giving me the data. So the name, the email, and the IP log. Now, maybe as soon as we get that, it's going to be obvious who it is, but it might not be. So then we may have to go to Telstra. Telstra is a lot easier than Twitter to deal with this because obviously Twitter, we had the hurdles of it being a double international company. So we had to take the Irish Twitter and the San Francisco Twitter, I think it was, to an Australian court. So there was those hurdles, and then there was serving them internationally. Telstra's not like that. Telstra, it's an Aussie company who have a dedicated team to this kind of stuff. That's why, again, I'm finding it funny when you have opinion pieces in The Age calling this a chilling precedence when there's actually devoted Telstra teams to helping people do this through the courts because it happens so often. It does happen a lot.
Right. So basically what you're saying is that nobody has the right to break the law anonymously.
Exactly. And when you say that's to break the law, but even when it comes to your right to privacy at that level ends when you impede on my right to not be defamed or not, whatever it is. So whatever civil thing that I have a claim against you, that's where you're right. And yes, you can go online, when we're talking about protecting people's privacy or right to be anonymous online, the idea behind that really is to protect whistleblowers from within the police force or whatever institution to speak up, to protect them from prostitution. That's not what's happening here.
Well, that's right. And we have whistleblower protections in this country that we hope are upheld for genuine whistleblowers. But this isn't about that.
Absolutely not. This is about somebody who claims to have to be a private citizen, who denies being. I'm pretty sure has denied being on the tax dime. Although I may be thinking about it as I'm speaking to you now. I don't know if I've seen an outright denial of that. I've seen denials from staffers of the Andrews office that it was them, and threats of litigation at people that have been suggested that it was them. So I don't know if they've actually. That's interesting. I just thought of that talking to you there, Morgan. But the point is that is in the public interest. If we are paying as taxpayers unwittingly, unknowingly, to fund a PR account that's pretending to be a private citizen that has the inside information, that has trolled, defamed, attacked, maligned anybody who questioned the lockdowns. You got to remember, what's interesting for me in this is that I've received support from weird places when this came out. If you read The Age, the newspaper, the articles, not the opinion piece that was ridiculous, but the Age article reporting it, they actually reported on it fairly. Now that's a sign to me that, as much as they don't like me, as much as they say not a journalist, they dislike PR guy probably even more.
They're forced to recognize it because it's so significant. Now,
yeah,
Avi,
but
I think I speak on behalf of a lot of people when I say that something that I would love to see is a Rebel News report featuring Avi Yemini confronting PR guy in person. Now, let me ask you this. What are the chances of that happening? And if that does happen, what can the audience expect to see?
Listen, again, everything depends on who we're talking about. That's the point here. And I'm not going to sit here and tell you that I'm going to confront this person because I don't need an intervention order before I get it. Let's just say,
all right.
I will do the right thing with the information, and I do believe that it will be somebody that the public will know very well very shortly, in one way or another. In how that's going to happen really depends on who this person ends up being.
Excellent. All right, now Avi, before we wrap it up, if you could just give us a quick summary conclusion from your time rubbing shoulder with some of the world's elites, what would it be?
I needed a shower after that. No, it was
really. Is that they didn't smell too good?
No, they did. They smell really good, actually. They were wearing some stuff I couldn't afford. But honestly, I think we shocked Switzerland. We shocked the elites by just being there. You know, our presence in their little safe space. It threw them. The interviews I only got them because they were so shocked I was asking them questions. So I'm excited about what we did. I thought it was an absolute success. The WEF reports that we were doing, they're all up there. If your viewers want to see WEFreports.com, I think you were running them as well. But that's what it's about. You know, I love it. Rebel News is doing the journalism that used to be called journalism.
Absolutely. And are we going to see Avi in the press gallery for Daniel Andrews anytime soon?
We are waiting for that outcome in the court. I saw that today. Somebody tweeted, Avi needs to change his name to Avi. The boy who cried Sue or something. Like, because and they listed, you know, he sued the Victorian government, he's sued the Victorian police, he's sued, and they're making fun of me like I don't win. And the funny thing is, this case we won. Victoria Police watch this space, but spoiler alert, happy days. The Victorian government, well, that was a huge case with some of the biggest names in the country. You had Will Horton, #1 media barrister in the country. That was a $300,000 lawsuit to get into those press conferences. So you can mock me all you like, but this is a big boys game, and we're playing. And I dare say that, heck, maybe the age, their shift in tone again is another light bulb moment I'm having talking to you. Maybe that shift in description and language is potentially because they realize Avi doesn't mess around anymore. It's all Ezra, to be fair. Ezra's you got to remember, Ezra, the head of the boss of Rebel, he is a lawyer by trade. In fact, he just got his doctorate in law last week. So mazel tov to Ezra. But we're talking about a company that's built on the idea of using the law to protect us and to fight for the little guy. And that's what we've been doing all through the lockdowns. That's what we did. All our campaigns, that's what it's been. And then on top of that, it's, also to get to the bottom of some stories, we've gone to the courts. And this is one example of, I guess it's a side note because it's about defamation. The bonus here is that we uncover one of the biggest trolls in our country.
Awesome stuff. Awesome. All right. Well, Avi, thanks for jumping on MCJ Report. And where is the best place for people to follow and stay up to date with your work?
Well, I've got a new website called followavi.com. That easy, followavi.com, and it's got all the links there. Any platform you're on, you can just click it and follow me through that, followavi.com. You should set something up like that. It's pretty cool. You should look at it. I'll tell you off air, mate.
Perfect. I'll look into it. All right, guys, you heard it at home. That is followavi.com. Avi, thanks for your time, and we hope to have you back soon.
Thanks, mate.
All right, a big thank you to Avi for jumping on the show to give a great explanation of what's going on, and we will be, of course, waiting with anticipation. All right, now, ladies and gentlemen, that brings us to the end of the show for this evening. I'd like to thank all of my viewers and everybody who has been watching. That's right, MCJ Report will be back soon. So in the meantime, if you have not done this already, head on over to mcjreport.com, put your email address in, sign up to the newsletter, and that way you will make sure that you never miss an episode. All right, my friends, stay strong, keep fighting, and I'll catch you really soon on the next episode.